It is an epic near-future anti-Star Wars drama played out with giant humanoid battle robots, a glimpse into the next evolutionary stage of humans, and a ratings failure that launched one of the most successful brands in history and a Japanese national icon. Hi, I'm Dan Larson, and this is the history of Mobile Suit Gundam. Thank you to Sheath for sponsoring this video. Use promo code TOYGALAXY to get 20% off your order today. Sheath have transformed your underwear. Sheath has 3 individual compartments to keep everything down there separate, comfortable, and cool. Keep your collection organized, keep your life organized, keep your equipment organized. Don't just throw all your accessories in the same bin together. Keep your staffs in one place, your balls in another. Sheath has a modern ergonomic design to prevent contact for long durations, which can build up heat and moisture. They were invented by a US Army soldier during his second tour in Iraq, where they were prepared for just about anything, but they weren't properly equipped to fight enemies like camshaft position malfunction, English bunt, insufficient airflow, transmission over temperature, Montreal hot dog, deep diving crank. Fight with the right tools. Click the link below and use code TOYGALAXY at checkout, or go to sheathunderwear.com/TOYGALAXY for 20% off and show your boys how much their service means to you. Give them a comfortable place of their own while they're on active duty. That's sheathunderwear.com/TOYGALAXY, or just click the link below and use code TOYGALAXY for 20% off. Thank you again to Sheath. In the 40-plus years since Mobile Suit Gundam first aired, Gundam has become one of the biggest franchises on planet Earth. We cannot possibly cover it all in a single video. Even limiting this video to just the first iteration, just Mobile Suit Gundam, there's still too many comics, games, books, toys, model kits, spin-offs, prequels, Gashapon sneakers, hats, school supplies. I don't even have time to finish the list of things we don't have time to cover. Mobile Suit Gundam was a 43-episode animated series that first aired in Japan in April of 1979, forever changing the giant robot cartoon market, altering the expectations of the genre, rearranging the idea of what a war with robots could be. It was transformational. It is the 79th year of the Universal Century, a calendar that began when the population of Earth had grown to the point of unsustainability, necessitating the creation of orbiting space habitats, each housing tens of millions of people. Space colonization was supposed to be a way to relieve the burden on the planet, to give everyone the resources they needed to live, but it also gave humanity a new place to wage the same old wars. The space colonies located furthest from Earth have declared themselves the Principality of Zeon, a self-governing nation-state independent of the Earth Federation, who control the Earth, the Moon, and all of the other colonies in orbit. To go with their Declaration of Independence, Zeon has also launched a War of Independence. Despite being outnumbered by Federation forces, Zeon has the military advantage through advanced technology, namely their mobile suits. Giant humanoid robots piloted by soldiers, enabling them to deliver artillery that would normally require a battleship or space fighter. See, in this future, long-range combat tactics are hampered by a new type of radiation that can be projected onto the battlefield. Minovsky particles disrupt all types of signals: navigational, tracking, homing, infrared, radar. So, if you want to fight, you have to get up close and put your eyes on the target. The early stages of the war cost both sides half of their respective populations, but the Earth Federation has been working on a response. They have developed a prototype mobile suit called a Gundam with even better advanced technology than the Zeon mobile suits. Better handling, faster, stronger, equipped with weapons that no mobile suit has ever been capable of carrying. It will be supported by White Base, a new Pegasus class of military spaceship, which all sounds great until the Gundam and White Base are sent into battle crewed by teenagers and civilians. Because all of the trained soldiers, pilots, and engineers are killed in an ambush, because war sucks, and even if you win, everyone loses. Amuro Ray, the 16-year-old pilot of the Gundam, the son of the guy who invented it, will find himself learning on the fly as he goes up against the best the Zeon forces have, including the best mobile suit pilot in the entire galaxy, Char Aznable, the infamous Red Comet, known for his speed, devastating battlefield prowess, and body count. Furthermore, both Amuro and Char will discover that they are so good at what they do because they represent a paradigm shift in the evolution of human beings. They possess an extrasensory perception, an ability that makes them even more proficient at conducting war in a giant robot suit in outer space. Emergent, profoundly unique beings that will come to be known as new types. War is hell, and sometimes there are no good guys and bad guys. Rather, there are varying degrees and forms of oppression, abuse, and structural inequality. For those on the battlefield, civilians or combatants, the enemy is whoever is on the other side of the gun, or in this case, whoever is in the belly of the other mobile suit. Mobile Suit Gundam was produced by Nippon Sunrise. It was created and directed by Yoshiyuki Tomino, featuring characters designed by Yoshikazu Yasuhiko and robots and ships designed by Kunio Okawara. All three had established themselves within the animation community in Japan, and more specifically with robot cartoons, giant super robot cartoons. By 1978, Japanese cartoons were saturated with giant super robots. Robots with mysterious, sometimes magical origins. Robots with mysterious, sometimes magical powers. Daimos, Voltus V, Vanguard Ace, Guy King, Combattler V, Raiding, Getter Robo, Grandizer, Mazinga Z, some of which Tomino, Yasuhiko, and Okawara were responsible for. In fact, all three worked on the Nippon Sunrise series, Zambot 3 and Daitarn 3. That experience dovetailed into the development of Mobile Suit Gundam. Tomino wanted to do more with the genre and more with animation. He wanted to tell bigger, more important stories than defeating the monster of the week. He was done with super robots. Time to introduce real robots. Tomino wanted to tell a story about war, how it develops, how it rages, how it destroys people and lives and the environment. He wasn't looking to do more children's fantasy. For inspiration, he considered concepts that had been presented in the 1959 science fiction novel Starship Troopers by Robert Heinlein. Not that he necessarily agreed with the themes of the novel, but it sure did give him a lot to think about with respect to what a Star War might one day look like. In particular, he sure did like the idea of a mobile infantry-powered armor suit and thought those concepts could be applied to the more realistic giant war robots he was planning for his new show. Initially developed under the working title Space Battle Group Gunboy, Tomino pulled inspiration from other projects. An admitted fan of Space Battleship Yamato, he imported a design Kunio Okawara had originally intended for Daitarn 3 and refashioned it as the White Base or Pegasus ship which supports the Earth Federation forces. The name Gunboy would evolve into Gundam as the story crystallized. Legend has it that Hajime Yatate, a name given to the collective of writers and artists working on the project, had developed the name Gundam as a combination of the words gun and freedom. Heck, where I'm from, we just call that USA of America. Legend continues that Tomino modified Gundam into Gundam, invoking a hyper-romantic lone savior ideal that a single soldier with a strong enough gun could hold back the enemy the way water is held back by a dam. A gun dam. That robot went through some evolution as well. Tomino originally conceived of the mobile suit as a tool of war and assumed that it would be decorated as such. A nice low visibility gray, or black and gray, or gray with either deep red or maybe purple accents. But that's when show sponsor Clover Toys stepped in. Clover, who until very recently hadn't been a toy manufacturer at all, was on a hot streak with brightly colored, chromed out, missile-firing, fist-launching, transforming toys from shows like the aforementioned Zambot 3 and Daitarn 3, which Tomino, Yasuhiko, and Okawara worked on. Tomino knew that the only way a cartoon like this gets to TV is if it's sponsored by a toy company. And the only way the toy company is going to sponsor it is if they think they can sell toys. Clover requested some cosmetic changes to the main robot. Start with white, add some red, add some blue, add some yellow, add some chrome. We love chrome. There were a variety of scales and degrees of functionality produced, from simple soft vinyl toys to complex die-cast and chrome showstoppers, firing fists, firing missiles, feet with wheels where none previously existed. Gundam was accompanied by two other Earth Federation mobile suits, the two mobile suits that historically were developed prior to the Gundam itself. The question is it gun cannon? Yes! One of them was Gun Cannon, and of course the other one was Gun Tank. Clover also produced toys for the Pegasus ship White Base and several of the Zeon forces. For Tomino, it was like making toys of the deconstructive comics masterpiece Watchmen. Who would do that? Tomino absolutely hated the new look. He thought it broke his real robot war concept before anyone even got to see it. No real military would paint mobile suits their weapons of war like that. It would be a sitting duck. Why don't we just rename the show Gundam? I'm paraphrasing, of course. In a sense, Tomino was right, but so was Clover. Ratings weren't great overall, but the real problem was the show wasn't moving toys. The older audience that was watching wasn't buying the toys, and the kids who would have been interested in the toys had no connection because they weren't watching. Mobile Suit Gundam was originally scheduled for 52 episodes, but Clover pulled the plug at episode 39. It doesn't matter how good the show is if you don't have the financial support from the sponsors. Thanks again to Sheath for sponsoring this video, but Tomino and crew were able to negotiate one more month to hastily wrap up the story. Mobile Suit Gundam was canceled after 43 total episodes, seemingly ending the real robot era of animation before it began. However, in one of the most prescient business decisions ever, just as the toys were languishing on the shelves, headed for the clearance bins, Bandai licensed the rights for model kits based on Mobile Suit Gundam. Bandai had been in the model kit business since 1971 and knew that the teens who were watching Gundam were also the teens who were building model kits. The interest in the model kits drove interest in the reruns drove the sales of the model kits, interest in Gundam overall increased. In 1981, Tomino was given a second chance to tell a story a little closer to his original vision. The 43 episodes of Mobile Suit Gundam were edited down, then divided up into 3 separate films to be released theatrically. Some of the original animation was replaced with scenes or vehicles that Tomino believed to be more appropriate to his vision instead of Clover's. Special editions, if you will. Even less super robot, even more real robot. Mobile Suit Gundam and Mobile Suit Gundam Soldiers of Sorrow were released in 1981. Mobile Suit Gundam Encounters in Space in 1982. It is estimated that around 15,000 people showed up for the premiere of Mobile Suit Gundam. It was so crowded that police and the media were concerned that it could turn into a riot. It is known as the day that anime changed. The 3 releases combined to bring in nearly 5.5 billion yen, which is... You're just gonna have to trust me on this. It was a lot of money in 1981 and 1982. Bandai's model kits were on the shelves. They were far less expensive than the toys and far more appealing to the audience that was going to the theaters to see the movies. They didn't have much articulation. They were molded in a single flat color. The kits had to be glued together, then painted. But they sold well. Profits were great and people wanted more. More kits, more characters, more Gundam. It is not an exaggeration to say that the introduction of Gundam plastic models, or Gunpla, saved the franchise.
歴史を塗り替えるためにあまたの勇者が消え、そしてまた英雄が生まれる。ジョニー・ライデン少佐。今またフルアーマーオペレーションガンダム部隊との壮絶なる戦闘へ。機動戦士ガンダムバンダイのプラモデル。
That's Spider-Man screeching, not me. I'm fine. Bandai's new president, 35-year-old Makoto Yamashina, son of former Bandai president Naoto Yamashina, wanted to capitalize on the growing popularity of Gundam in Japan and around the world. And what better place to make a statement than Hollywood, California, in the US of Americans? In 1983, Bandai representatives, on behalf of Makoto Yamashina, approached Lionsgate Film to see if they could collaborate on a Mobile Suit Gundam feature film. Lionsgate Film is a studio founded by writer-director-producer Robert Altman in 1970 after the success of MASH. It is completely unrelated to Lionsgate Entertainment that was founded in 1997. Lionsgate reached out to screenwriter Chip Proser to write a movie treatment for Gundam. Proser was known as a sci-fi and military movie script doctor, the guy that turns the rough draft into the shooting version. In the future, he would write Inner Space and do a major rewrite of Top Gun, but not yet. Proser agreed to write the Mobile Suit Gundam script with a caveat: he wanted to direct it as well, something he had never done before. But Lionsgate agreed. Proser went to Japan to meet the Gundam team and get to know the mythology, then he got to work. Legendary science fiction artist Sid Mead was hired to develop some of the concept art. Proser completed a first draft of the script, which included several recognizable beats from the original Gundam concept, supplemented with healthy doses of Star Wars and the Magnificent Seven. Since you and I are from the future, we know that the film was never finished. It was barely started. Apparently, Bandai hadn't properly cleared the film rights with all of the appropriate rights holders. If you're up for a glimpse into what might have been, the script is available online. Once Gundam was embraced as a household name in Japan, the sky was the limit on licensed merchandise. An entire economy grew from its popularity. I can tell you that a lot of manga has been produced depicting the events of the original series, alternate perspectives, fill-in stories. The One-Year War and the Universal Century timeline have been incredibly fertile ground for over 4 decades. I cannot possibly name them all here. Yoshiyuki Tomino himself wrote the first novelizations of Mobile Suit Gundam. From 1979 to 1981, 3 books were published depicting a version of the story that was more detailed, more mature than the animated series, and thereby closer to Tomino's original ideas. There are minor changes like the name switcheroo of the Pegasus-class ship White Base now being a White Base-class ship called Pegasus, and major changes like Amuro already being in the military when the story begins as a sergeant major in the Earth Federation forces. The novels were translated into English in 1990 by Frederick Schott, published by Del Rey Books. The English versions were released again in 2004, but this time as a single book called Mobile Suit Gundam: Awakening, Escalation, Confrontation. It had revisions, of course, most notably the correction of discrepancies from the first publication. In 1990, Char's name was translated as Sha, which could be argued was correct phonetically. But officially, the name had been clarified over the years as Char because Tomino had loosely based him on Charles Aznavour, the French-American singer, actor, and diplomat. Most of the games that exist for Mobile Suit Gundam came long after the television series and the theatrical releases. In 1982, Bandai released a tactical military tabletop game. It came with paintable plastic miniatures, a hex grid starfield map, and all the robot stats you could ask for. Bandai Electronics produced multiple handheld and tabletop electronic games, LCD games, even a handheld LCD game built into the torso of a non-posable Gundam action figure. There were a few PC games, but the real video games would have to wait for technology to catch up. There was an extended period between the release of the theatrical versions of the original series and the ability to watch it outside of Japan. In 1998, the 3 films were released on VHS with English subtitles. 1999 was the 20th anniversary of the franchise and would see the first dubbed version with Michael Lindsay as Amuro and Steve Blum as Char. Gundam first stepped out of Japan in 1980 when it was broadcast in Italy, but it would slowly make its way around the world, finally landing in the US in 2000. Mobile Suit Gundam Wing wasn't the most popular series in Japan, but it was the perfect series to introduce Gundam to the place I'm from, the US of Guns. Some Gundam series and films had been released in the US on VHS, but an entire series had never aired on television, and certainly not with any regularity or a marketing campaign behind it. Cartoon Network changed that with their Toonami block of television. Gundam Wing offered a buffet of different Gundam styles to suit a variety of tastes. It arrived at a time where anime was experiencing a new resurgence in the US, and a generation that had grown up with Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles already understood the team dynamic. 5 suits, 5 distinct personalities, 5 themes. Fight the bad guys. A year later, in 2001, Cartoon Network followed Gundam Wing with the original Mobile Suit Gundam. Heavily edited for the afternoon audience, it didn't perform as well as Wing, but the 2 series did kick off the Gundam toy and model kit market in the West in a big way. After September 11, 2001, there was a concerted effort by television networks to reduce the amount of war-focused content being broadcast, which resulted in the cancellation of Mobile Suit Gundam. Ironic for a series that is so transparently anti-war. Nonetheless, the imagery was considered sensitive at the time. It prevented the final episodes of the series being broadcast. Cartoon Network would try again in 2002, airing it on Adult Swim instead of Toonami, but it was canceled due to low ratings. Mobile Suit Gundam was followed by a lot of Gundam. We could turn this entire channel over to just episodes about the different Gundam series and still have enough material for the next 2 years easy. The story of Char and Amuro continues in the direct sequel, 1985's Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam. From there, it's 1986's Mobile Suit Gundam Double Zeta, which moves on from the Amuro and Char rivalry because Tomino took them over to the 1988 movie Mobile Suit Gundam: Char's Counterattack. Char's Counterattack is the final chapter in the Amuro vs. Char rivalry and the end of the Federation vs. Zeon. It was based on a novel by Tomino, and it was both the first completely original Gundam movie and the first Gundam movie or series to use CG graphics, which it did for 5 seconds. And from there, choose your own adventure. You can continue with the Universal Century timeline going into the future with series like Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn, released in 2010, or go back in time to see the events leading up to the One-Year War with Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin, released in 2015. Step into alternate timelines with Mobile Suit Gundam Seed, which is set in the Cosmic Era timeline, which is kind of similar to the Universal Century timeline, but different. The Post-Disaster timeline with Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. The Future Century timeline with the wackiness of Mobile Fighter G Gundam, or the After Colony timeline with 1995's Mobile Suit Gundam Wing. In 2006, Bandai Entertainment released the English-dubbed version of the series as a 10-disc DVD set. No Japanese audio track because Tomino thought that the television mono recording mix had not survived well enough to use it. However, in 2007, Bandai re-released the series on DVD with new HD masters and the original theatrical mono audio mix. In 2011, Bandai Entertainment once again released the entire series, this time with both English and Japanese audio, but without episode 15 as per usual. When broadcast or sold internationally, Tomino requests that the episode not be released because it has too much material that is off-model. It diminishes the quality of the overall work. Bandai Entertainment shut down in 2012, but in 2015, Sunrise through Right Stuff Incorporated released the series again on DVD and on Blu-ray for the first time. Today, through the magic of the internet, you can watch everything except episode 15 on Crunchyroll. Netflix currently has the 3 compilation films. Mobile Suit Gundam has been an internationally recognized brand for over 4 decades, but it has become far more important in Japan. For the Japanese, Gundam is a cultural icon. In 2000, Gundam the Ride opened at Fuji-Q Highland Amusement Park in Fujiyoshida, Yamanashi, Japan. The ride's story puts visitors on an escape pod during the final battle of the One-Year War. Bit dark for a theme park, but still fun. It's a roller coaster of emotions. Gundam the Ride closed in 2007 and was immediately replaced with Gundam Crisis Attraction, which featured a life-size reproduction of Gundam lying flat in the facility. Not as much a ride as a scavenger hunt. Visitors must solve a puzzle with handheld devices to activate Gundam for battle. In 2009, for the 30th anniversary of the franchise, a 59-foot-tall life-size statue of the original Gundam was unveiled in Shiokaze Park in Odaiba. Interesting considering that Odaiba itself is located on an artificial island in Tokyo Bay. The Gundam statue featured working lights, a turning head, and smoke that would billow out of the vents. In 2010, the statue was moved to Shizuoka, the city where most Gundam model kits are made. In 2011, it was damaged in the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. The statue was again disassembled and moved back to Odaiba, where it was displayed in pieces so visitors could get even closer to it than before. In 2012, the fully assembled Gundam returned to Odaiba, this time at Diver City at Tokyo Plaza, with a corresponding indoor theme park and shop. 5 years later, it was replaced by a life-size transforming statue of Unicorn Gundam. But that was not even close to the end of the original Gundam having a significant real presence in Japan. From the moment the original Gundam statue came down, designers and engineers had been developing the next stage in the development of a real Mobile Suit Gundam. In 2020, a life-size moving Gundam opened at an attraction called the Gundam Factory in Yokohama Bay. Surrounded by a superstructure that adds even more immersive realism, each Gundam performance showcases the Gundam completing a walk cycle before returning to its original rest position. It can raise its arms, open its fingers, turn its head, and even kneel down. In April of 2021, Legendary Entertainment and Netflix announced that Kong Skull Island director Jordan Vogt Roberts was working on a live-action Gundam movie that would be distributed by Netflix. Brian K. Vaughan, writer of both Y: The Last Man and Runaways, as well as the story editor and producer of Lost for seasons 3 through 5, is attached to write and executive produce. Details about the actual plot are unknown at this time. However, Vogt Roberts has said that his goal for the film is, quote, "For all the people who might say, I don't know where to start with Gundam, I want to create this film and give them an access point where you can say, this is where you start, this is your entry point." Mobile Suit Gundam, also known as the First Gundam, Gundam 0079, RX-78-2, Gundam 79, and Grandpa Gundam was the first of many. Many Gundams and many real robots. Shows like Fang of the Sun Dugram in 1981, Macross in 1982, and Armored Trooper Votoms in 1983 all owe their existence and their legacies to the success of Mobile Suit Gundam. Real robots are their own genre of giant robot animation and storytelling, just like super robots. The global impact of Gundam is over 40 years of animation, toys, model kits, movies, games, every kind of licensed merchandise you can imagine. A dedicated fan base that can now make a pilgrimage to see the one that started it all, standing in its home in Yokohama Bay. For Tomino, that statue, like the toy-friendly distortion of his original idea, was problematic. In his own words, "When the project was first explained to me, I'm embarrassed to say I really lacked the imagination to imagine what it would be like, and I was very against the project. You'd have this large object that looked really cheap and tawdry. However, now that I've seen it, I'm really moved, and I feel tremendous strength and power from this huge robot. It really focuses on what I like to call toy-like colors. These toy-like colors don't have the color of real weapons and real tools of destruction. They're peaceful colors, happy colors, the kinds of colors that little kids like. And they are the kinds of colors that encourage people to say, Don't give up hope. Have great expectations and have great hopes for the future of humankind. Because Mobile Suit Gundam is not simply a robot story, it is not simply an anime, it is much deeper and much more valuable than that. Despite the modest tone I've taken until now, Gundam is pretty awesome. Thanks for watching. Please hit like, hit subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Thank you very much to those of you who already are. If you haven't heard, we started streaming on Twitch. Find us at twitch.tv/toygalaxy. If you're in the position to help the channel grow, please visit our Patreon or become a YouTube channel member. I don't have a thing for the end of this video. There was a long research, a long write, and an absolute monster to try to condense down to what we ultimately just put together, and it's still one of the longest videos we've ever made. It was made even more difficult due to the fact that I grew up with Gundam, seeing it for the first time in Japan, and couldn't really find a spot to interject my own experience despite my best efforts. This could have easily been a Gundam miniseries or a whole season of episodes, but for now, I'm just going to show you my original Clover Toys Gundam to prove that some of the kids who were watching also liked the toys.
Hi.